The war on drugs was the dumbest thing that America could have waged a war on. And you know it's stupid by looking at yourself. How many people you know? How many people you seen doing drugs? Did the war on drugs really stop that? No, because people will do drugs. And the war on drugs went about doing everything wrong. Anyways, by looking at how the war on drugs came to be, how it was implemented, and the results of it, I could better explain to you to why the war on drugs is so stupid. So let's look at it. During the 1960s, drug use in the United States had become more public and prevalent due in part to the counterculture movement. So in June 1971, the war on drugs began when President Richard Nixon declared drug abuse to be public enemy number one. Nixon increased federal funding for the drug control agencies and proposed strict measures such as mandatory prison sentencing for drug crimes. In the mid-1970s, the war on drugs took a slight hiatus when Jimmy Carter became president. During his first year in office, the Senate voted to decriminalize up to 1 ounce of marijuana. However, Carter's presidency witnessed a sharp increase in cocaine use. The demand for cocaine increased as much as 700%. Marijuana was widely connected to cocaine as a feeder drug, so the federal and state governments moved away from marijuana decriminalization. Furthermore, cocaine led to the crack epidemic in the 1980s. The epidemic particularly devastated African American communities. Federal prison admission for drug offenses soared, and the murder and manslaughter rates increased significantly. As a result, when President Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, he vowed to crack down on substance abuse. He reinforced and expanded many of Nixon's war on drugs policies. In 1986, Reagan signed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which gave $1.7 billion to continue fighting the war on drugs. Under this law, drug users were to be prosecuted for possession, and it also established mandatory minimum prison sentences for specific drug offenses. A notable feature of the mandatory minimums was the massive gap between the amounts of crack and the powder cocaine that resulted in the same minimum sentence. Possession of 5 grams of crack led to an automatic 5-year sentence, while it took the possession of 500 grams of powder cocaine to trigger that sentence. Since approximately 80% of crack users were African Americans, mandatory minimums led to an unequal increase of incarceration rates for non-violent black drug offenders. It also raised claims that the war on drugs was a racist institution. Ultimately, public support for the war on drugs has waned in recent decades. Some Americans and policymakers feel that the war on drugs has been ineffective and has led to a racial divide. Reforms were acted during that time, such as the legalization of recreational marijuana and the passage of the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010. The war on drugs did nothing to help this world out. All it did is create more problems. And the war on drugs mainly focused on targeting young black males, small-time drug dealers. Also, with the war on drugs not focusing on helping people, it just discouraged the black youth from doing legal stuff. And that creates an even worse environment. And they mainly focus on black neighborhoods because they were easy targets. Black people didn't have the money to buy lawyers, so they could get easy convictions out of the black community. With these convictions in their hands, they were able to get promotions. To them, it was just a job. To them, arresting black people was just a job. To them, sinning and destroying the black community was just a job, because at the end of the day, they didn't have to worry about the repercussions of their actions. And going to prison didn't make anything better for these black people, because once you come from prison, most of your rights are taken away. You don't have voting rights. You're not able to get a good home. You're not able to get loans. You're not able to get other public assistance because you are a convicted felon and you've been in jail and you have a bad record. It creates a bigger cycle. It creates a cycle of violence. It creates a cycle of crime. So with that being said, the war on drugs was stupid because it focused on punishing and not helping the black community and the people that were using drugs. If they focused on helping them, they would have stopped using drugs. They would have made the demand for drugs less. They would have stopped the illegal trade of drugs. But no, they didn't do that. You know why? Because they don't care about black. And nowadays, it shows you that they are capable of helping with the opioid epidemic. Now they want to focus on rehabilitation. Now they want to focus on treatment. What was that at when there was the crack epidemic? Nowhere to be found, because it was black faces being hurt. You could say, oh, they learned from their mistakes, but no, it's not learning, because they already know. They were smart then and they smart now to know that helping was the right thing to do. But it was easy for them to punish than to help because it's black people. They didn't care. So that's why the war on drugs is so stupid. They could have done the right thing, but they butchered it. And people are still being affected by the stupid policies that was made a while ago. So I got nothing more to say than the war on drugs was just a war against black people.